You are watching Access LaPorte County, Channel 97. Coming up next is the February 25th meeting of the LaPorte County Regional Sewer and Water District Board. You can find more information for this meeting by visiting www.accessLaPorteCounty.org.
Calling the meeting of the LaPorte County Regional Sewer District to order for February 25th, 2025. If everybody could please rise and salute the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
John Carr.
Here.
Marcella Kunstick.
Here.
Jerry Jackson. No. Mitch Bishop.
Here.
Corey Campbell.
Here.
Mark Danielson.
Present.
Amanda Laners. It's not here. We have a quorum.
Okay. First item on the agenda, approval of minutes from January 28th, 2025.
Motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
Yeah, motion and second to approve the minutes. Any questions? Proceed to vote. All in favor signify by the word aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Ayes have it. Public comment. Anyone wishing to speak needs to state their name and address for the record, and we'll have 3 minutes to speak. Is there anybody here for public comment?
Yes.
Come on up.
My name is Angela Eggleston. I live at 5311 East 800 North in Rolling Prairie, Indiana. All right, so I'm in Saucony Lake, and so I'm going to speak. I've got a few questions regarding the sewage project. First of all, I had a question, but I see that she's not here for the health department because, you know, we had a community get-together over the weekend, and we all sat and discussed a lot of different things. First of all, we don't feel like option number one that you guys are presenting is a very good option at all. We feel like if there has to be others, there are other options out there, you know, different types and forms, and that would be better, I think better for the community. And those have not, I don't know where your process was as far as searching into it. Did you go to an engineering firm and say, hey, what's the best? And this is what they gave you, and you went with it. I think there should be other alternatives looked at. Second of all, what my question was for the health department was, you know, you would think, being the lake, that they would be doing inspections. You know, isn't that the health department, where they do inspections on the homes and they test, like where they push blue water out, you know, through their septic, you know, put a tab in to see if it pushes out to the lake, to see if the lake is even being contaminated. Right now, there's no evidence that I've heard of that the lake is contaminated whatsoever. Now, are there people that might need septic systems redone? Certainly. However, it's going to be a lot cheaper for the people, for the community, everything else, to have that done and looked at and evaluated. The other thing is that the letters that were sent out, a lot of the people, a lot of the senior citizens, there were a few people that came to me and said it actually throughout the meeting, is that they signed the easement because they felt coerced. And they want to rescind it, and they don't know if they can rescind it, but they would love to have that opportunity to rescind that because they do not want this. You know, and the other thing is that, you know, looking at the map and everything else of the people that are around there, you know, like for me, for my property and everything else that I live on, there's so many of us that are so out and far away from that lake and that have septics that are inspected and done and cleaned out. And you guys are giving us a timeline as far as waivers, but eventually we have to buy into that. Okay, so my problem with that is that eventually you guys are going to force us to tie into that when it's not even necessary. I just don't understand. I have a hard time understanding the concept of you guys are forcing us to take this. You know, I have several acres, you know, and my property won't be affected, will never affect that lake because of how far out I live. So why are we being mandated? You know, if you're going to put the system in, you guys got to run down our road. You know, none of us want to sign the easement. You know, if you say, hey, you don't have to tie into this, but we need your easement, that might be a whole different story if I can get a guarantee that I don't need to have to sign into this stuff. But I just feel the whole project itself is not necessary, you know, and if our health department is supposed to be inspecting everything, why hasn't it been done? Because nobody's has been inspected. Wouldn't that be a lot cheaper to hire somebody to go around and inspect than to go ahead and put millions and millions and millions of dollars and taxpayer money on the line for this project? I just don't feel it's necessary. The other part of it is that, you know, financing costs. We've got estimates of up to $18,000 to tie into your system. Are you guys going to work with the banks to help these people get the financing or whatever it needs to get this taken care of? This is ridiculous. We need to find out what you guys are going to do to help us. You're forcing us. You're turning our hand. I could put in a new septic system cheaper than what you guys are charging me to tie into this system. The other part is, are you going to insure? Are you insured so that, because we've talked about all the different systems and the backups and everything else with this, with that 1/4-inch pipe that you guys are proposing to take and put in and to push this stuff out. Are you guys insured? Because if there's damage to anybody's homes, why should we have our homeowners insurance be responsible for this? This is not us. We didn't ask for this. You guys did. So are you guys insured to take on that responsibility? Okay? And are you guys with the electric on those septics? Now, we've heard different things gone back and forth with this system. Some people we've heard have systems, you know, in Michigan, the same system, and they had to tie in those little mulcher grinder things to their electric system. So now their electric bill, so you guys are saying 70, 80 is what you want to try to get it to? But now do we have, whose electric is this going to tie into? Is it the homeowners? And if I have to share one with my neighbor, who gets the bill? I guarantee you if I go next door to my neighbor and say, give me half, they're going to say, no, you take care of it. I'm not paying for them. So there's a lot of things that we as a community have issues and concerns about, and it's like everybody's moving forward, and we apologize that we didn't take hold of this sooner. I guess a lot of us didn't know. A lot of us didn't know we could actually come to these meetings and present this stuff. So we're here now, and we want to make sure that our voices are heard.
Thank you.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anybody else under public comment? Anybody else wish to speak? Anybody on Zoom, public comment? Okay. Come on up. You got a timer, Morris?
Do I?
I got it.
Yeah, I just have a couple of things to say.
If you could stay.
Name and address, please.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Gisela Eggleston. I live at 5525 East, 800 North, Rolling Prairie. I live on the north side of the road that goes around the lake. But I am included in this. For why, I have no idea. But what I would like to know is who is going to pay for the waste system out of my house, out of all your houses, is about either a 6 or an 8-inch pipe. Now, what you want to do, whoever, is take my pipe where it comes out of my house, my 8-inch pipe, and they want to couple it down and hook it to a 1.5-inch pipe. 1.5 inch. Do you see the problem here? It's not going to take very many flushes of my toilet to plug this thing up, and it's going to come up out of my toilet because it will not go through a 1.25 inch pipe. So what is the first thing you do? You go to Lowe's and you buy a snake to go and snake it out so the toilet works. Okay? Common sense. You come home with the snake, put it down your toilet, and then you figure out the head of the snake is bigger than the 1.25-inch pipe. Now where are you at? Who is going to pay to fix this? To dig my yard up, to put in a big enough pipe to take my waste away? Because any engineer that has any idea of what goes through different pipes will tell you a 1.25-inch pipe will only take gray water. That's it. Now, the other thing I've got to say, the way I understand it, there is not enough money to finish this project. Is there ever going to be enough money? You guys want to come out and you want to rip up our beautiful lake, and you don't have the money to finish the job and make it clean again. Now, the reason I'm worried about this is because the last administration that we had was all about the Green New Deal and was going to have hundreds of billions of dollars, which I imagine that some of this money might have been coming from that. We now have an administration that is all about getting rid of waste, excess spending. I think this qualifies. You probably will never get the money to finish this job. You're just going to rip up our lake, is what you're going to do.
All right, thank you. That's been 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. He's just the engineer, so I'm just
Yeah. Explain to me, how are you going to get an 8-inch pipe and couple it down into a 1.25-inch pipe?
Yeah.
And I would recommend that, they're going to give a report, as they do every meeting. If they feel like addressing your concerns or your concerns, we'll let them do that maybe at that part of the meeting.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.
Some of you have seen me before. My name is Tim Grieve, 5589 Wawasee Trail. I wasn't going to get up here, but I feel a need that I need to. These ladies are not alone, all right? This is not one or two people who don't want this. This is a lot of people that don't want this, myself included, because I'm back in the woods. I'm nowhere near the freaking lake. Yet they want to shove this down my throat, and I get somebody to come out and give me an estimate, and they say $10,000 to run from the grinder pump to my house. Utterly freaking ridiculous that this gets shoved down my throat, and it's a brand new septic system. There is no reason why I need to replace this damn thing, and there's a lot of people out there with new systems that are in the same boat. Now you're going based on what you've heard from a select few. I won't get into it, but it's not everybody that wants it. If you have problems with certain people's systems, deal with them. The ones that are around the lake, deal with them. I have one question, and then I'll sit down and shut up. We have heard that JPR, I believe it was, suggested, since you guys didn't have the money to do the incomplete system, to just do the houses that are on the perimeter of the lake, around the edge of the lake, and maybe a block or two in. Is that what is going to happen?
Well, nothing's been decided yet, but that was one of the, I think, the pare down on the scope was basically just around the lake.
JPR will address that.
How can the public find out when that is decided?
Keep coming here like you're doing.
We're going to try to have him address that when he speaks.
Okay, fair enough.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else under public comment? Okay, seeing none, moving on. to reports. Steve Carter, Claims and Finance.
I don't think Steve's on. So I can do the financials and claims best I can. I don't
Okay.
think. Is there any Steve on at all? Okay, I don't
don't
think
see.
he's on. So we got Hudson Saugony with month end looking like 2,131,000. Looks like disbursements of month for 4,425 for operating costs. Rolling Prairie,
Right here.
like account balance at
Got it. I was just trying to find
321,619. Disbursements of 9,875,000. Income of 4,770. Toll road expenses. Looks like account balance of 165,300. Income receipts of 28,488. And then the bond improvement Hoosier Fund 531,577. Sure, I can answer a whole lot of questions on the financials if you have them, but I can try. Other than that, the claims, we have 2 additional to add to it. There's a Kuntz Lake check of 120 and a Pretty Lake check for 108. For some reason, those are still the credit card receipts. I don't know why that's happening.
So you'll check with Steve?
Well, Steve, yeah, he knows that. Those are in the checks that John
Okay.
has to write. But he stopped at the office yesterday and dropped all that off, and those are in there. So the total for the claims for the month is $35,760.18. So we need a motion to approve that amount for the claims.
Pleasure on the claims.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve the claims. Any questions? Proceed to vote. All those in favor signify by word aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Ayes have it. Okay, moving on to Asbury. Anybody here from Asbury?
I think Tom and Chrissy are on. I know Tom sent a revised report late yesterday, but that is not in your boardable packet with some additional information.
Yes, and hold on one second here. Am I coming through right now?
Yep.
Okay. And is Chris Vogler at the meeting right now?
No, Chris isn't here.
Okay. Let me pull this up. I was thinking he was going to take the lead. Let me pull the report up. Got a lot of emails here I'm sorting through. All right, I've got it pulled up. Let's see here. The treatment plant was in full compliance throughout January, and we did an average at the wastewater plant. We treated an average daily flow of 11,500 gallons a day. The maximum for the month was 23,000. So right now we're doing about 14% of capacity, which is consistent with this time of year. The removal percentages were all above 99%. And the drinking water plant did an almost exactly the same production figures during the month, 13,700 gallons a day and a maximum of 21,800. So moving to the action items, as you recall, during last month's meeting, there was the hydrant failure there at the wastewater plant, and we got 3 quotes. Pavey Excavating was $8,291. Hill Excavating was $9,836. And Asbury ourselves submitted a proposal for $8,930. So the low bidder for this is Pavey Excavating, and we're requesting approval to proceed with their quotation. And I don't know if you wanted me to go on to the next item, or there'll be 2 items we're requesting board approval for.
Probably ought to have the board approve them as they come along. Okay.
Okay. So yeah.
And then that Pavey Excavating, you'd also add a 10%
Yes.
markup on that, right?
Yep. Yeah. And yep. That's correct.
Motion to approve Pavey Excavating.
Second.
What was the dollar amount on that?
891.
$8,291 plus 10%, which is
8,000.
Yeah.
yep.
Okay, so we got a motion and a second to approve Pavey's quote in the amount of $82.81 plus 10%.
8291.
$82.91 plus 10%. Any questions on the motion?
That was Corey and Marcella.
Yep.
Yeah.
Proceed to vote. All those in favor signify by word aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Ayes have it. What else you got?
Okay, the other item was for the waterworks. So when we responded to this emergency, and it's something that we kind of noted in the past, that the as-built plans for the water distribution system differ from what we're seeing in the field. A lot of this has to do with the fact that, the system dates back, to the 1950s, parts of it do. And, there's been a lot of money put into it. And in any event, we discussed with some of the board members and whatnot that it would make more sense for us to do some mapping of the system and putting it on the GIS. And with our utility locate crew, we believe we can do it for a lump sum of $1,250. And that's also what we're requesting approval to do.
How soon can you get to it?
As soon as the ground thaws, which at this rate, who knows?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
Wednesday?
Yeah, it's thawing fast now.
Motion.
But yeah, well, sometime this spring.
Second.
So we got a motion and a second to approve quote for, was it 1,200?
Who did the motion?
Mark and Marcy, right? Any questions on the motion?
Nope.
Proceed to vote. All those in favor signify by word aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Ayes have it. Anything else?
Well, yeah, that's all for what we're requesting approval for. We had some more information. So the influent comminutor at the water pollution control plant. So basically, it's a large grinder that grinds waste that comes into the treatment plant. It's a Muffin Monster brand, and it failed a couple weeks ago. We removed the unit with the crane truck and corresponded with some people to see if it was able to be repaired. Unfortunately, everything we're getting back indicates that the unit is it's too far gone for a repair to make economic sense. So in other words, the repair would be more than 50% of the cost of a new unit. We did get a quote from one of the area distributors for Muffin Monster for $26,872. We also looked at other brands, other companies that make this kind of equipment, and none of them really have a unit that can fit as designed in this space. So we didn't put this up to request approval for, and this is something that we would have the vendor invoice the district directly for. So I don't know how you want to proceed with that. It looks like, we could request approval for it. I didn't know how the district's finances are, and if
Do we
want
need
to go
to
wait until
get
the next
any?
meeting, but it will need to be repaired since it's in the permit.
I know I
And
had forwarded that to Steve and Dan to take a look at.
okay, good deal.
I sent it to you guys in an email, I think, on Friday. And I didn't know if we had anyone else we could have take a look at it and any suggestions.
Yeah, yep, and we'll get with JPR and massage that a little bit before the next meeting so that we can proceed one way or the other.
Yeah, it'd be nice if we can get at least a second quote.
Yeah.
At least. Be nice. I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Sorry. We're proposing on eliminating that common as part of our plan improvements. So
Okay.
it probably doesn't make sense to get a new one.
Okay.
If there's a way
that's
we
even
could put
better.
in some kind of like temporary manual screening in that box or something like that to
Yeah.
help remove solids in the meantime, because what we're going to end up doing is we're going to end up bringing the influent force main into the current surge tank, and we're going to be
Okay.
building a pretty sizable manual screening box in there. But that would be part of contract A of the project that's currently out for bids.
Could you get with him and
Yeah.
discuss
certainly.
that?
Yeah, Tom, I think that's probably, we need to have you guys get Chris and you guys get
Yeah.
together. That's part of why I was forwarding that report straight to you and Steve to review that when I saw it in the report.
Yeah, that sounds really good. That's good to hear. It looks like we'll be able to avoid.
Yeah. Hey, Tom, how old is that unit?
I think I don't know right off the top of my head, but it's
Original
it's
with
probably
the plant.
Yeah, it's got to be pretty old.
Installed 20 years ago.
Okay.
Thank you.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. That sounds good. When was Division A looking to be completed? Hopefully.
Sorry, Tom, I can't hear you.
When was Division A? When is the estimated completion for Division A?
Oh, for contract A?
Yeah.
I mean, probably about a calendar year from when notice to proceed's issued, so probably sometime next spring or summer.
Okay.
Now, that doesn't mean
very good.
that doesn't mean that the plan improvements wouldn't be done,
Right.
sooner than that. Yeah.
I think we can figure out something until then.
We're gonna have to. Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
we could probably
Yeah.
we could probably have our contractor prioritize doing that plant work.
Yep.
We could stress that at the pre-construction meeting.
Very good. Well, that's really all the substantive things that I have to discuss. Chris is going to continue working on getting additional quotes for routine generator preventative maintenance service contract for both of the generators. So yeah, but that's really pretty much all I had.
Well, Tom, didn't you have this Waterworks EPA IDEM quote in here too? You wanted
Oh
to
yeah,
discuss?
the PFAS monitoring is something that we're required to do by the EPA.
I can speak to that a little bit more specifically since I sent the letter. This is Chrissy Asbury. Nice to meet you all. But IDEM through EPA is requiring Waterworks to do 2 sampling events in 2025. It's kind of a one-off at this point. I'm assuming there's no exceedances. I don't anticipate that you'll be required to do more PFAS testing in the future, but the total price for the year to get it done in compliance is $1,490.
Okay.
So we would, I guess, submit that for approval.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep. Make a motion to approve 1,400 for the testing that's required.
1490.
90.
Yeah, 14.
Second.
We got motion and second to approve the price for $1,490. And questions on the motions? Proceed to vote. All those in favor signify by the word aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Ayes have it.
Thanks, Chrissy.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Is that it for Asbury?
I think
All right. Yes, that concludes our report.
All right.
Thank you.
Drive safe. JPR, you're up next.
Well,
On the agenda, isn't there something regarding Asbury's proposal for billing services?
That's coming up right after there will be.
Okay, sorry.
Next one up.
You're talking about I thought you were skipping down to the
I see that.
No,
Hudson
the billing,
Saucony reports.
Well, if I was going to skip anywhere, it was going to be the adjournment, but
Sorry, Mr. President.
no, the billing, collection, liens, permit, inspections, all that is just the same as what's already in the report.
Okay.
And then we're going to the billing services for Asbury's quote, and that's where Barry's at right now. And that information was in your board packets and information.
Asbury Bill.
And I think Kevin's here if he wants to add anything more than what was already in there.
Yeah, got it.
So this is just another quote pertaining to our billing and so forth.
Yeah.
Was this, I kind of sent you an email
Yes.
asking about, like, was it comparable, basically? Was it the
Yes,
same?
it is. It's comparable to what they provided, and they're going to do the amount that was pretty much already discussed,
Okay,
and with annual review.
okay. So do we need to make a motion on this today to get it going? Because we do
Yeah.
need the billing to be.
Yep.
And I guess what I would ask is if the board agrees with this substantively, to allow the time to maybe me follow up with whoever Asbury wants to designate to maybe pretty up some of the contractual language. There's
Okay.
nothing major, but I mean, for example, they have the name wrong.
Okay,
We're not water and sewer district, we're sewer and water district, which I realize is picky, but it's our legal name, so I want us to use our legal name.
just write it out, right?
Right. So I mean, I think the board can approve it substantively, subject to my review within the next couple of weeks, and then away we go.
So move.
that's a good idea.
Second?
yeah.
Second.
Go ahead. Yeah.
We got motion and second to approve Asbury's proposal pending Barry's review in the next couple weeks.
Motion was Mark, second.
Corey,
Corey?
any questions?
No?
Proceed to vote. All those in favor signify by word aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Ayes have it.
And if Asbury could just let me know, I'm going to be out the rest of this week, but who I can shoot an email to next week to, okay. Maybe just hand me your card before you steal away. Thank you.
Okay. Next one, JPR billing report.
We already did that.
We already did that.
Come on, John.
Phase 2.
Right. Don't have much of an update on phase 2. We're just waiting on closing and transfer of funds there. For Hudson Saucony project, not a whole lot's changed in the memo here. A couple of things I wanted to point out. As you know, in the future, we're looking at doing a potential future phase where we're looking at essentially constructing a new treatment plant on the existing treatment plant site and using the existing plant as a sludge processing facility. And due to the way that recent bids have come in for us on wastewater treatment plant projects, there's an avenue for project financing called Build, Operate, Transfer. Are you guys familiar with this at all? Okay, essentially what it is as the board, you guys would make a qualifications-based selection of a general contractor, and then that general contractor would essentially take over ownership of the project, construct it, and operate it for a set period of time. That period of time could be 1 day. It doesn't have to be like an extended period of time. Then they would transfer the asset over to you at the completion of the project. We've worked in the past with Thieneman Construction out of Westfield and Maryville, and they put together a pretty interesting presentation package on this. And I was wondering if the board might be interested in kind of learning a little bit more about this process and potentially considering it for this wastewater plant contract of the future project. If you do, I could kind of spearhead setting up a meeting between you guys and Thieneman. Like, we could probably even host it at our South Bend office where we have a conference room we could all meet in. If you want, I can start putting some feelers out there to see if they'd be interested in coming out here to make that presentation.
John? Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, I will do that. On the collection system side of things, as you guys know, the project's currently out for bid. I attached the prospective bidders list that I sent last time, except I think this time there's a few more names on it now. But the other attachment to the board update are the actual plan holders lists for contracts A and B. These are the lists of people who actually requested and received plans that are currently looking at bidding the project right now. There's, as you can see, there's 6 or 7 GCs on each of those. So hopefully that means we get a little more interest this time and get a little more competition in there. So
Marshall was looking at the list.
GC wise, we're looking at we've got Dyer Construction, Grimmer, Selge, LGS, TGB Unlimited, Reith, Riley, and Hassey have got this. And I think all of those have both contracts.
Me too.
But
See Hassey?
just as a reminder, I guess I'm kind of jumping to 6 for the tentative project schedule. Just as a reminder, we'll be holding a pre-bid meeting in this room on Monday next week at 9 a.m. Central. Again, we only your guys' attendance is optional. I think we'd maybe like to have one member here just to represent the board. But
No more than 3, right?
yeah, correct. Correct. And then we'll be receiving bids at a special meeting on March 18th at 2 o'clock Central in this room, at which point those will be presented to Steve Carter the following day once we have a bid tabulation put together. And that final rate study will be presented to the board the following meeting on March 25th. And that's also when we would make our engineer's recommendation. So, sorry, jumping back to Item 4 for project permitting, the only update I really have there for the drainage board. Barry, I had the drainage board reach out to me. If you recall, we exchanged some emails about a hold harmless agreement that I thought wasn't really applicable for this project since it takes place in the public right of way, not on private property owned by the district. So the drainage board recommended that you coordinate with their attorney to kind of hash this out. I'll facilitate this discussion.
Okay, great.
I'll forward you the contact info and get that discussion going. I just don't want that to hold closing up. I think that it'll probably be resolved pretty quickly.
I think I know who their attorney is, and he and I get along just fine.
Because I think they already issued the permit for us. It was just this hold harmless agreement was one of the conditions of approval, and we'll get it figured out. In there, I've got a updated table for the grinder station easement land acquisition. There's one for the whole project there, and also one for the reduced scope project that's currently out for bids. You can see we currently hold 63% of required easements for the Phase 1 reduced scope project. So it's late February, which means we need to put together an asset management plan update and issue a asset management plan certification to SRF. So I'm gonna work on updating the asset inventory, and I will get that forwarded over to Steve Carter so he can update looking at the financial side of things. However, I'd like to request board authorization for John Carr to sign the asset management plan certification outside of this meeting, so that we can get it submitted to them before the March 31st deadline, so that you guys can stay on the project priority list.
That sounds good. We can do that.
Is that a motion?
Yeah.
I make the motion.
Second. Who would certify that?
John
Carr.
We got a motion. Who's John? You mean Steve?
No, John Carr.
Oh, John Carr.
As the board president was
Carter.
saying it. No,
Okay.
no.
Thought there was some mystery board member I didn't know about. All right.
So wait,
Sorry.
this
You didn't know about him?
I did.
this is motion for what?
Authorization to sign asset management plan certification.
So we got a motion and a second to give board president authorization to sign the
Asset management plan.
asset management plan. Any questions on the motion? Proceed to vote. All those in favor signify by word aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Ayes have it. What else?
That is all I've got. I think if you guys don't have any questions, I think Ken was going to address some of the public's concerns.
Okay.
And chime in if you can help.
Thank you.
We know.
So I'm Ken Jones with JPR. I'm the CEO of the engineering firm that's working on the project. I'll try to answer some of your questions and do my best there. So the first question that we heard was what options were considered. From JPR's perspective and the district trustees' perspective, we considered only one option, and that's municipal sewer. But within that category, we studied 3 options for collection, and we typically look at the most cost-effective, and we test that over a 20-year period. And the way we test that is we look at not only the capital cost to construct it, but also the capital cost to care for it. And then we analyze that over a 20-year period, and actually even our funding agencies require that we do that test. And so in the end, in this project, low-pressure sewer won out over probably gravity and potentially vacuum. And if that information isn't on the district's website, we'll repost it, and that will be in the form of the project preliminary engineering report. That is also the document that we would have used to apply for funding. So, and that'll have a very complete description of the project and how we arrived at the conclusions that we arrived at.
So basically, we have to present this to the people that we're getting the money from.
Correct.
Correct. And if they don't like what we're doing, they're not going to give us the money.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. We're obligated as a public utility, which is what you are. When you build a capital project, you are obligated just like any other public utility or municipal entity, where you have to be able to demonstrate that you've selected the most cost-effective option, and that cost-effective option extends not only the purchase price, but the ability to care, maintain, replace over a certain period of time. Typically, the test is a 20-year period. So
yeah, we do the same thing for Rolling Prairie.
Yep, same exact. And this is the same test you'll use on every project the district does. So relative to the health department, we don't really know. I'm really not sure whether the health department does any testing of the lake at all. We certainly don't. And there's a couple reasons why, but typically that's not in our areas of expertise. Unless somebody was pointing out something about the lake that was, calling for a significant testing exercise, we typically wouldn't even be the one to direct that. I am aware in some jurisdictions that health departments will test water at the swimming beaches. And I don't know whether that happens at Saugony Lake or not. I'm not sure whether it even happens at Hudson Lake. But there are some tests that the health department can do to confirm that the water is safe for contact, full body contact. But that would be a question for the health department. So the one thing I should tell you, and just kind of remind everybody, there are multiple reasons to initiate a public sewer system, and it seldom, although it is good to say we care about the lake and our impact on the environment is important, and we should do everything we can to preserve the lake. That typically is not within our purview to decide whether the lake is at some state of eutrophication that has been advanced by human encroachment. That is not our area. And there are experts that do that. But just from what I know and all of the waterfront, lakefront, rural utility projects that I've been involved in the last 30 years, that is rarely done. It is mostly a gut check for the residents. Like, if there was something we can do, we should do it. The thing that we try to encourage people to think about is what is or could potentially impact their daily life and their health, and that is protection of the drinking water resource. And I've been probably talking about this with residents in this community probably since 2013. And so if somebody said, is the eutrophication of the lake speeding up? Could be. That's not my area. If you really want to study that, you got to hire somebody that is a professor in limnology and is teaching classes in that at Purdue or Michigan State or otherwise. And typically, now we've done that one time. We actually had the homeowner group decided to hire a limnologist and a very qualified professor out of Michigan State. This was in the Sister Lakes area of Berrien County. And they had to spend a whole year. It can't be done just by sampling water. It has to be an analysis that's done over a complete change of seasons. And then at the end of that, they should be able to say, seems like there's an impact, or they don't know. And typically it is they don't know. Because it is very difficult to be able to test an ever-changing body of water for that particular thing. At least that's my understanding. So we appreciate that people love the lake and they care about the environment, and that really is everyone's first thing they go to. But from what I know about this particular community, the drinking water aquifer is in what we would characterize as an unprotected state, which means it has no barrier over the top of it, and that water table is relatively close to surface. At Hudson Lake, it's dramatically close to surface. At Saugony Lake, it's significantly deeper. It's still not deep enough to be protected, but it's significantly deeper. We did do some sampling of water wells overall. We sampled 10 wells throughout the service area, including Hudson and Saugony Lake. Only 2 of those were in Saugony Lake. We had to have permission. Those property owners, rightly so, we signed an NDA with them. We can't release that information of who those were. We did find characteristics in the drinking water that would tell you that there is an impact going on. But now, it doesn't mean anything like it's unsafe to drink that water, because what we detected were minute traces of, compounds or pharmaceuticals that can only come from human. And they were not in any way able to harm anyone or make them sick. The only concept there was we wanted to have some understanding of, is there an impact going on? Yes, there is. If you can detect that in the drinking water resource, then you know your septic systems are having an impact on the environment. That's all we were after, and that was all that we did. So the next question had to do with letters sent out and the easements and whether the property owner could rescind them. Once the easement is signed and it's gone through the recording process, we would have to bring that request back to the council or back to the trustees for them to vacate that easement. That would be something that your legal counsel would have to be involved in. The potential for refusing to allow the install, I can tell you that even if we have an easement, if we get out to a property owner's property and they say, you know what, I don't agree with that easement, you're not putting that thing on my property, we're not going to put it on their property. Simple as that. We have no desire to enforce even an easement that was legally procured in a scenario like that, because we're not going to be, at least from JPR's standpoint, we would recommend to the board, walk away from that. It wouldn't be worth it. So if they change their mind between the time they sign that easement and the time we get there to do the install, that's going to be our recommendation. You should know that going in. We hope they don't, because they'll only get that one chance. We hope they don't, but that would be our recommendation. It's not worth the fight. So,
but I guess the question would be for the public, A, if the board decides to go forward with the project, that doesn't necessarily stop the project. And B, maybe what, I think you ought to let them know what the financial ramifications are of not allowing for the easement.
Yeah, so the district will, over time, through the process of this project, continue to expand the definitive service area for each project. So if the homeowner is within the service area of project number one, in this case, contract A, and they either refuse to sign the easement, or they refuse to provide the easement, or they refuse the installation, any of those three things, that doesn't release them from the obligation to connect to the system. They still have to connect to the system. That means that in some future date, if the district goes forward with the project, there could be a process of enforcement where you say you didn't connect, you are obligated to connect. Here is how you do that, and typically that will involve a cost that would be borne by that individual property owner, not by the group as it's proposed now, and they would have to go through that process. Eventually, have to connect, and the financial obligation goes from paying for this over 30 to 35 years, to paying for it upfront. And that is the reality of it. And now, all of that is up to this Board of Trustees to enforce. We can only bring you the information, what you decide to do with it. But you are within your rights, and under the law, you can compel connection to a wastewater system. So, and typically, when you adopt ordinances for this project, there will be a section of that ordinance that talks about compelled connection. So,
Okay.
and the thing I would tell you is that there's a reason for that. There's a reason for wanting everyone to participate, and it has to do with the fact that it is a public works project, a community benefit project, and folks, we want every single property owner to connect, absolutely. And that's just that's the reason why we're why we're doing this. This is you as the Board of Trustees were given this assignment, although sometimes it's not all that comfortable. It is your assignment. So there are impacts, and there are concerns. If I'm a property owner and refuse to connect, at some point in time, I'm probably going to have to connect anyway, and the cost is going to be 100% on me. So, and that means you didn't get access to any grant funding that we're procuring, any long-term, low-interest loan that we're procuring, all of that. So, as far as I know, the septic waiver portion is still underway, correct? Property owners can still file for that?
Sorry, we're going to be discussing that with the exemptions and stuff and the inspections and stuff right after this, and the ones that have already passed and letters.
Okay.
And property owners that think that they're entitled to that, they should go do it. They should definitely do it.
And that time is
Because there
actually,
will be a time where that will not be considered further. So, the one thing that was mentioned is the property owners are already looking at the cost of the connection, the install. One of the things we haven't necessarily talked to the council or to the trustees about is that there is some potential for you to continue to assist the property owner even under construction. Even though you have established, you've already decided the design parameters that the engineers are using for the placement of the grinder pumps. We're trying to get 2 properties whenever possible to reduce the cost. You allowed us to go so far onto the private property, and that is the purpose of the easement. What we have done and can do under construction, and we can make this decision at any time, you could say, hey, property owner, now that we have the costs for the install, and we know the per foot cost of the 1 1/4 inch service lead, if you want, and you are the only property owner that's being serviced by that grinder pump, if you want to move that grinder pump farther into your property, then we would invite you to consider paying the extra cost for that 1 1/4 1/2 inch service lead. We've done that routinely as the project gets up to, and people take advantage of it. So what that means is if you're thinking your contractor has to go from your house, 100 feet out to the street with a gravity sewer connection to the grinder pump unit, if you're the only party being served by that grinder pump unit, we could potentially move it back into the site. The cost really, there'd be the cost of the added length for the 1 1/4 inch service lead and the cost of the added length of conductor for the power connection to the grid.
Okay.
So one of the questions was, who's paying for the power? The power is included in the utility rate. We looked at taking that out of the project, if you
Right.
remember, and decided not to. So we're actually constructing a parallel electrical system in the system and connecting all the grinder pumps to that parallel system. So that won't be going through the homeowner's meter.
Right.
So the one question came up, how are you going to fit the wastewater from an 8-inch pipe into an 1.5 inch? And I responded, while sitting in the office, we're not, because we're not. And so what's happening there, and she probably doesn't have an 8-inch line. She probably has a 4 or 6-inch line coming out of her house. It could be 8-inch, that would be unusual. But regardless, that pipe is going to be connected to our grinder pump. And it has to meet this, when that connection is made, it has to meet the standard that the district is going to adopt, which, by the way, we'll go ahead and, I think we could go ahead and put that detail up on the district's website.
I think we already have some details already from Rolling Prairie, which,
And so when the property owner connects, they're connecting typically it's a 4-inch waste line coming out of the house, or 6-inch maybe, and it's going into the grinder pump. Ahead of that, between the house and the grinder pump, the installer is required to put in a backflow prevention device. There's no way the water from that tank can get back into the house once it goes into the tank. So, pardon me?
Just said, repeat that.
When the connection is made between the house and the grinder pump, the district will require that you install a backflow prevention device in that line. So that, and by the way, the tank, if it's an individual tank, holds about 70 gallons, something like that. And it's being evacuated by the pump, which is triggered, basically by a float. So, and then I don't believe we put a backflow prevention device on the service lead itself. Okay, so there's a second check valve.
There's redundant check.
Yep. So there's a second check valve between the tank and the main sewer, the force main, so that wastewater from the force main can't get back into the tank. So both of those would have to fail in some way for there to be a backup. And we just don't see that. I don't know of that occurring. It would be the worst case scenario, and maybe when all those planets line up later this month, that could happen or something, but I'm not sure. So again, if people have a brand new septic system, they would be absolutely eligible for a waiver, and they should seek it. And I wouldn't blame them. I probably would myself even. If I just spent all this money putting in a new septic system.
Right.
The other thing I want to also check, and when we get back, if we don't have it on the district's website, we should put the exact service area of this phase 1 project on the website graphically. So homeowner could go to the district's website and within a few clicks, am I in or am I out?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Right. And I think we are bidding maybe 1 or 2 neighborhood alternates as well. 5. Okay.
and we've just kind of changed that, so it's kind of a work in progress right now with the rebidding, so we can work and put that on there.
So, so as always, homeowners can call me direct. If they leave a message at the office, I return every single phone call, and I'm happy to stay and speak with any of the residents that are here if they would like to.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ken.
You bet.
We appreciate that.
Okay, moving on. Executive Committee, Engineering Committee. No meeting. Notice of statutory exemption.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to discuss, because we do have some of the exemptions for the project that we have received that were, that had the timeline, and then the property owners requested the exemptions, and then they got their inspections, and then I had sent the information to Amanda to get the health department approval. And now going through the list, these property owners, I believe, are in your packet, in your boards, and the blue ones are property owners that are in the current Phase A being bid.
Okay.
And as you can see, and then some, I do not have their inspection report yet.
Okay.
So I'm only going to ask you to approve the district approval for the exemption of the ones that I have the inspections and approval from Amanda with the health department. I do have one that is not approved at the bottom of a property owner that has, let's see, 7 properties there. His one property was not approved because he has a dry well, not a septic, which is not approvable.
Okay.
That property is not approvable. But I believe, a couple, I believe, are here that discuss their properties even. And so I guess I would, officially, I think we need to do some letters, and I can work with Barry on that. Number one, letting them know that, we need to do a letter of approval, that their exemption was approved. I need to probably do a letter to the ones saying they're not approved. And then, we have some that are no longer in the actual phase.
And were some of those approved before we pared down the project?
Well, technically, yes.
Because I know we talked last week at the pre-meeting about how to handle those, and so
Yeah.
we could always hold off on granting the exemptions or voting on the exemptions. But in other words, if I'm not in the new scope, but I went through the process thinking I was in the scope, did everything right, got the inspection, Amanda's approved the inspection, and we vote, but maybe the clock of their 10 years starts ticking even though their project hasn't begun yet. So, I mean, that's why we might need to work on a letter that kind of puts it on them, meaning, okay, you could do it now, but the clock starts ticking, and so if we don't do your phase for another year or two, you may have, quote, lost 2 years, but if you wait, there's no guarantee. I mean, we're not going to accept a 2-year-old inspection at that point, so you're probably going to have to get a new inspection, and then what if, God forbid, it failed within those 2 years? So it is, I mean, it shouldn't be our decision necessarily because it's their life, it's their home, but I think we need to consider that if we have people who aren't in the revised phase. So, but I might suggest that maybe we hold off on, unless they're, I mean, it doesn't cost the homeowners anything, and I don't think it matters to us. We may want to hold off on having a vote because we don't necessarily know what the scope of the project will be yet with the alternatives that have gone out, meaning if the bids came in really well and we could add 2 or 3 more neighborhoods, all of a sudden maybe somebody that currently isn't in the scope might be in the scope. So unless JPR or anybody else thinks that there's a need for us to take action today, maybe we wait and see how the bids shake out. I think it would help the homeowners to kind of wait and see where we are.
So the ones that are currently in, we should go ahead and approve, though, because I've got people that are calling me every week.
The ones that are in the zone, you mean?
I mean, that's fine.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean,
and I think I should maybe reach out to the ones that don't have inspections done yet, because
but I think particularly the public needs to know the statutory time period for asking for an exemption has passed.
It's done.
It was done in December 23rd or right around Christmas.
I actually had one that just requested it February 15th.
Which doesn't mean that the time period to submit your inspection is done.
Right.
They get another 120 days after that. But barring the board deciding it, and honestly, I don't have the statute here, but I don't remember there being language, and maybe Ken could provide some perspective, or Jennifer, even if we wanted to give them more time, I'm not sure the statute, it doesn't really say that. It doesn't say at a minimum or at the board's discretion. It really just says 60 days from the date you file, period. So I don't even think this board has the discretion. I mean, we didn't write the statute. It is what it is at this point.
I think, so this part of the code hasn't always been there.
Okay.
And there was a lot of dialogue that happened to get it put in there. So, in the 60-day time frame was on purpose. And you're right, it does not read like you have a whole lot of discretion relative to that, because that introduces the potential for discretion the other way. You know, so I feel like you have to, and to be honest with you, the way the trustees would typically want to react is follow the code.
Right.
That's the safest thing to do.
We have to follow.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Okay, so what do we want to do about the exemption list?
I think we,
I don't think there's anything wrong with voting on the property addresses that are definitely going to be in the first phase and have done everything they need to be granted the exemption. I don't know whether you want to, I don't know that we need to name names. Maybe property addresses is a better way to do it.
So we're going to do a letter for the ones that are approved and the one that is denied.
Yeah.
Correct.
We'll go ahead and we're good with that.
yes. I'll put that in the form of a motion.
You got that?
Yep.
Second, Marcy?
Second?
We got a motion and a second to approve the property owners that are in the project zone.
How many were there,
Yeah.
Jennifer? How many were there that actually got approved in the current Schedule A or Phase A?
Looks like 12. 12? Minus the one they got
10.
wasn't approved.
10 are approved in A and 1 denied.
Okay. So,
They are the ones in blue. Can you see that on your thing?
Yep.
Yeah, 10 approved in blue. There's 1, 2 that are not officially approved because they didn't have their inspections turned in, if that's what you were counting.
Yep.
And then
Exactly what I was
1
counting.
denied,
okay.
as of right now, as of yesterday.
So we got a motion and a second to approve the ones the 10 that are in blue and then the one that's denied.
Yeah.
Any questions?
No.
Proceed to vote. All those in favor signify by word aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Ayes have it. Jennifer's got that list of, I think there's a
when
couple
they-
people here
When they
today.
get that exemption, it's for 10 years, Ken? Is that how it's written, Barry, legislative?
It is.
Initially.
Initially. Okay.
And then they're allowed to apply for 2 more, I think.
To 5 years.
Or 5 years.
Yeah,
so that
2
the-
more 5
Yeah,
years.
the maximum amount you could get
With inspection.
20 years.
However, if your system goes down at any point during that, you have to connect.
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, moving on. New business. Next meeting, March 25th, in person. We have a bid opening also on March 18th. But I think we got the members that are coming set, right? It was Marcy, Corey, and was there one others?
Well, I need 4 of you present, and we have that, so I will be doing a special meeting notice to get that out
For the 18th.
for the 18th, correct?
I won't be in attendance.
You won't be attending, no, but I have 4 bodies.
I think I can make that one.
Yeah.
We'd love that.
March Madness. Okay, pre-agenda meeting attendees. Steve, anything change there?
No.
2022 and 2023 audit finishing.
Yes, I have a meeting scheduled next week when Steve gets back with Crow. I'm waiting on a few things, so.
Okay. Old business, interlocal agreement.
No change, just
Okay.
wait until we have a loan closing, and then that triggers our request to the council.
All right. Anything else? Go to the order.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
We got a motion and a second to adjourn. Any questions? Proceed to vote. All those in favor signify by word aye.
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 Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
I have it. Meeting adjourned 10:09. This meeting in the last 2 years.
Okay.